Good evening. My name is ARLEEN Hunter. I'm the Director of Development Services for the City of Bonita Springs, and we're all very pleased to see you here this evening. We're excited to start our opportunity of the city's evaluation and appraisal report. To begin, just a little minor housekeeping. If my local planning agency members could just raise their hand. I do know I have one here for sure. Mr. Forbes, Fred Forbes, he is a member of our local planning agency. He is also going to be a decision maker through this process. This year will be brought to the local planning agency at least 2 of their meetings coming forward. And then I'd like to introduce our city council members that are here. We have Deputy Mayor Stephen McIntosh. We have Council Member Bill Lockhart. And we have Council Member Janet Martin. And just to keep you all aware, they are very interested and supportive of this process as well, but they will probably most likely reserve their comments for their regularly scheduled public meetings, as they're going to keep in line with our sunshine laws. So if they are not commenting on anything in particular during the meeting, you'll understand why. At this time, I'd like to introduce Dr. Margaret Banyan with Florida Gulf Coast University. She will be leading us this evening through the workshop procedure, and she will be introducing the team that will be working with us this evening and walking you through the process.
Good evening, Margaret Banyan. I'm very pleased to be here tonight, and we've got a lot of things to cover and a big team to introduce. So I'm going to have our team kind of introduce themselves just by hand so you know who they are. At Florida Gulf Coast University, we've got a group of students that are working with us. So all of the students, raise your hand. Okay, perfect. And the students tonight are going to be note takers for you. So I'm actually going to embarrass Katie and tell her to move and be a note taker at this table. And then we also are working and very pleased to work with 2 firms that have a lot of experience in land use planning. Insight, and members of Insight, can you raise your hand? Very good. And then also Waldrop Engineering. You guys raise your hand. Excellent. So what I'm going to do here tonight is just walk you through a very short presentation, and then we're going to put you to work, because the job tonight is to get your input about what feedback you have about the comprehensive plan. So just quickly, here's our agenda. Short presentation. We're going to do a community discussion and then wrap up and next steps. I want to note before I get started that on your table you should have a public agenda for tonight. There also should be comment cards. In addition, there's a presentation. This presentation, there's copies, so if that's not on your table, please make sure to get one on your way out. So the EAR, we're not calling it the EAR anymore, we're calling it the EAR. This process is mandated by the state. We do it every 7 years. When the downturn came, the state changed their deadline, so it actually was extended a little bit for Bonita Springs. So the job of the EAR is really to look at the comprehensive plan to reflect what changes there were in state law that need to be reflected, as well as review the progress that the city has made towards its previous plan, and to, in essence, update it if there's changes that need to be made. Especially for local conditions. So we know a lot of things have changed in the city since this was last done, which was 2004 or 5. So a lot of things have changed. Annexations have changed. You've done good work on your biking and walking planning, and so those things need to be reflected. And then we'll be making recommendations. We won't be making any changes. Those changes actually come in a later process that I'll show you. So our job tonight and our job throughout this whole process is identify any major issues, to evaluate or update the vision, assess the shortcomings of the plan or opportunities in the plan that have arrived since it was last done, look at the objectives, respond to changing conditions, and respond to changes in the state requirements. So another thing, of course, is looking at population and how that's changed, and to update those figures. So this is kind of a big picture about the whole comprehensive planning process. Right now we're in step 1, and this is just the evaluation component. Later, after this step is over in April, If there's any changes needed, those will be made in the second phase. So this is just the first phase. We'll wrap up with this first phase by April 1. Then the second phase will be anticipate about a year-long process in making changes to the plan if any need to be made. And then finally, those should be updated and inserted into the land development regulations. So this is quite an extensive process with a lot of time in between. So all of the comprehensive plans in the state of Florida, they have certain chapters, or they're also called elements. This is the elements that are reflected in the Bonita Springs plan. I'm not going to read down the list, but these are your elements, and some of them are required by the state, others are optional. So discussion groups, what we're going to do tonight, we're going to ask you to collect and sort of be in a discussion group with others. This is the part of the work that we're going to ask you to do. What we want you to do is just talk through, there's some prompting questions that the facilitators have at the table, and they really are just kind of leading this discussion. We want you to respect all viewpoints, listen to each other, but at the same time be somewhat brief, because we don't have enough time to get through all of the elements, really, of the plan. So we want you to focus, and you also have a note taker, and that note taker is going to be trying to reflect the content of your conversation. They're not going to be writing verbatim exactly what you say unless they've missed something key. So we want to be sure that the notes that you have on the table do reflect the conversation. So it may be shortened. We'll use that later for our analysis. So be brief, but be thorough enough, explicit enough, so that when we walk away, we can have the information that we need. And at the end, we are going to ask you to identify a table reporter, and that table reporter, very briefly, will say probably the top 3 key things at your table that you thought were really important that happened during your discussion tonight. So the way we're framing this is, in 2014, your council had 4 strategic priorities, and these priorities were quality of life, revitalizing the downtown, strengthen infrastructure, and economic development. So we're using those four priorities to kind of frame the discussion. There's a lot of overlap. So what we're kind of hoping is that when we talk about kind of each of those 4 priorities, you think about what it is important to you within the context of those 4. I did want to share with you kind of a brief look at the growth in Bonita. Right now, the current population, the census estimates, is around 47,000 people. The estimated population, based on census and the Bureau of Economic Business Research, is estimating 67,545 by 2040. So that's about 20,000 more people in the city in the next 25 years. That's based on their estimates. And it also, based on their estimates, looks like the fastest growing group is people that are 75 and older. And if you look at the median age, it kind of makes sense that that's the group that's going to grow the most. So question for you is, how is the city's plan going to meet those needs as the population ages? And what kind of considerations do you need to make in your comprehensive plan to meet their needs? So under quality of life, we're just kind of anticipating there's going to be some key topics. That's going to be strong neighborhoods and healthy communities. It could be things like land use. It could be things like resiliency. How do you deal with storm surge events? How do you deal with flooding? What does a green city mean to you? What are the environmental considerations in this plan that need to be made? And what are the housing needs that you're going to see? Under revitalizing downtown, we're thinking that you might talk about priorities for development, what kind of housing you're going to need, what kind of mixed-use housing you would need. Do you need to co-locate residences with commercial? And then what kind of density does it seem like it'll be important for downtown? Then under strengthening your infrastructure, you might talk about transportation, you might talk about water, emergency evacuation, you might talk about schools, park and recreation, and then finally economic development. What do you expect to see in terms of industry and commerce, land use, employment, what do you want to see for your commercial corridors. Again, there's going to be overlap because we know that economic development and the way you do economic development does lend itself to quality of life. So we expect some of these discussions are going to overlap, so don't worry too much about kind of this 4 priorities. We really want you to kind of tell us what you're thinking. And then finally, before we go, I want to share with you the meetings we have coming up. So October 6th, there will be another meeting very similar to this one, where we'll do the same round, get some public input, and then another one on January 13th. So you have the locations there. This is all printed on your presentation, so you should be able to keep a hold of that and invite your friends and neighbors and whoever else you think might be interested to those meetings. And then finally, we have a public survey, and this is an online survey. It's going to open September 30th. So this is the link to the survey. So September 30th at 8 a.m., it's going to open up. And again, we really invite a lot of participation. So as much as you can help us share that survey and get that out, the more valuable it is. So that's enough for my presentation, and we're going to get you talking. So we're going to get you started. If you have any questions as we go along, I'll be free and roaming around. Raise your hand. We have additional copies of the comprehensive plan. If you want to review something, it's there. And other than that, facilitators, ready. All right, so Antoine, where are you? Antoine has a microphone, and I have a microphone. And what we're going to do is walk around, and whoever is your reporter is going to give us 3 key highlights from your table that you think everybody should know. And I'm going to ask, this is being recorded, so we'll have it for posterity. All right, who's ready? This table.
Well, we're not ready, but we'll go first. We spent a lot of time talking about quality of life, and I guess that makes our first bullet point really looking at the original vision of Bonita Springs, which was to have it be a very special place, and not just anywhere Florida sprawl. So it's all the quality of life things that make a town special, I guess would be our first point. The second relates to the first, but it does stand by itself, and that is having better connectivity in our community. We have a great grid network downtown that other towns like Estero would die to have. In fact, they're fighting to have. We have it in place now, interconnected open grid system of streets that can provide the opportunity for real bike connectivity, for walking connectivity, and yes, cars as well through there. And then the third thing was actually with specific reference to the beach, and not to take too much pressure on the beach, but to have access maybe by trolley, maybe by some other way along beach roads so that doesn't jam up all the time in season, and take better advantage of the two Lee County and Collier County parks at the end of Beach Road, so we don't stress everybody that lives on the beach. That's it. We had more, but that's our three.
Thank you. Okay, this table over here.
One of the things that was our first suggestion was the small town, keep the small town charm. We do not want urban sprawl. We do not want strip malls constantly. We want designated areas. The other thing is to maintain our environment and our water supply, and also to keep in mind the safety of the roads for bikes and pedestrians, and also for the aging population that we have here, to make sure that they're taken into consideration with all road designs. And the diversity in housing. You're trying to encourage businesses to come in. Please encourage businesses to have housing over the top of it, so you have mixed use, you know, for different economic type people coming in to live here and work here. And more recreation and entertainment. You know, a good casino with a good hotel, with a good convention center, that would be wonderful.
Very good. Okay, Lindsay's table.
Okay. Okay, we talked a lot about protecting the, can you hear me now? It is on. We talked a lot about protecting the DRGR. We talked about keeping the small town feel. No emphasis on economic development. Maintain that small town feel that will service the local folks. And what we are for, or the group did talk about having small business, keeping the town with small businesses that will service the locals, grow only the downtown area to keep from sprawl. Having a multimodal walkability, transit, encourage walking and biking, and shuttles to reduce traffic and congestion, especially in the restaurant or downtown and beach areas.
Great, thank you. Okay, this table. I think Martha's
Okay, ditto everybody. I don't know what else I can say. Okay, we talked about the original vision of being a green city with a social center, a heart, that we liked our comp plan. As it is, we should just follow it. Okay, but anyhow, we talked about the beautiful roads with the canopied trees, and road diets, not widening roads, but actually narrowing them. Better connectivity, that came up too, but we talked about beautiful walking paths over the river and creeks, so you do have connectivity between neighborhoods. We all want to keep that small town charm, preserve historic buildings downtown. We talked about having an architectural review and design committee, because what is this redevelopment going to be about? Can it be workforce housing came up, and also senior kind of step level housing where you can move from as the need grows. Clean business, small business, no strip malls. Well, don't make them look like strip malls, but and keep the water clean and plentiful, and hands off the DRGR, and of course they all love dark skies. Thank you.
Thank you.
Of course, the way we're kind of looking at it, Bonita is doing whatever they can at this point with the lack of funding, but some of the things that could be done is connection, walkability, improvement on water quality, multimodal transportation, pocket parks, meaning the small type of parks, and that's conducive for neighborhoods to get together and ride their bikes to. Dog parks, I guess there's one dog park. I don't live in Bonita, I'm from the school district, but I guess there's dog parks, a dog park, and it's become, as he said, two, I'm sorry, but it's quite a gathering that comes to these facilities. Updating the current playgrounds, and again, I'm sure that would happen anyway with funding that's slowly trickling down. Have a downtown mixed use with a dash of ecotourism. I'm sure a lot of this, we were kind of discussing what we were going to talk about, so I'm sure a lot of you have said this, which this also takes vehicles off the road, but do this in moderation. You don't want to do it all at once. Provide safer sidewalks, not just sidewalks that, get them up quickly, do what we can, really put some thought into placing them. And that goes along with what's already really being done with the complete streets. And as you said, road diets, making sure they function and work properly. And I guess Bonita misses out a lot of the social opportunities, and that goes back to, instead of a strip mall, creating something, I hate to bring up anything outside of Bonita, but Coconut Point, and creating something similar to that, maybe not as big. Yeah, just better design and put some thought into it.
All right, on the quality of life, we talked about the revitalization of downtown as being a key, or the key, and adding or making sure that we have strong residential and additional densities there. Build on our uniqueness of the river, the beaches, the nature. Look at the master plan for how we convert the rail use ultimately to either bike or transit or both. How important the high school is for our future quality of life, and we talked about water access or limited water access that maybe needs to be improved in Bonita Springs for River, Bay, and creeks. On the infrastructure, we said we need to go more bicycle friendly, and that we need to have interconnected routes either by roads or paths that would interconnect some of the areas that are blocked, such as by rivers and streams. Sidewalks and streetscapes for the older areas to help enhance those areas for livability, and bring in the younger folks there, maybe in some of the older homes. Economic development, we think we're a great spot, and we have represented that for corporate headquarters and ecotourism, entertainment venues, and renewable energy. Those are the things that we focused on economic development.
Super. Well, that is all of the tables, unless we didn't miss anybody, right? Very good. So before we wrap up tonight, what I want to remind you is another meeting on October 6th at the library, same time, 5:30, and remember to take your presentation so that you have the link to the online survey. This PowerPoint, as you signed in, we asked for your email address. So we're going to take your email address and add you to our distribution list. If you don't want us to email you, then make sure we know that, and we really will only email you for this process. So any questions, we'll be here, city staff will be here. The comment cards, if you have any written comments you want to provide, they're on the table. We'll continue to have those available, And we really thank you for your time tonight. It was very valuable, and it was a pleasure to meet most of you. And Arlene, did you want to say anything?
I just want to reiterate to everyone that the comment cards are also available at all city facilities. They're available online at the clerk's office as well. So we encourage you to pass the comment cards out or let us know if we can get a comment card to somebody as well. We continue to take any comments also via email. You can email myself or our city clerk, Debbie Philippek, or Margaret Banyan as well, and we want to continue to receive those comments via email. We will continue comments all through this process.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you. Really appreciate your time.